Blog Talk Radio.
The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat.
Welcome to Truth Talk.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
With Paul Webster.
First year, global governance with the establishment of the G20 in the middle of the financial crisis.
And Chance George.
President Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it.
On Global F.A.C.T Radio.
Nope, no weapons over there.
People who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
Conspiracy
government.
theories.
They've been crazy, but now they're right.
Maybe under here.
But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in
money from both of these areas, the area from 1945 going forward, and also the money that was currently missing at the Pentagon. So there might be a lot more to this than meets the eye. The areas of the World Trade Center towers that blew up, was it a coincidence that the offices that were hit were financial securities firms? To the SEC records in 7 World Trade Center, was it any coincidence that that was an area that was hit? How much gold was in the basement vaults of the World Trade Center towers? This rarely gets discussed by conspiracy theorists, but whenever you look at a crime, follow the money. It's always the key. Follow the money. That's about all I have to say on that particular point at the moment. I mean, I could go into pointing some areas, though.
Oh, no,
Cantor
that's fine.
Fitzgerald, Garbon Intercapital, Adnan Khashoggi, Eldorado Passport.
I think we have enough on our plate already.
All right. I'm hitting the buzzer. Okay, Evan.
I really don't understand what the 1945 gold thing has to do with, and he pointed out a book that I've never heard of and written by someone I've never heard of, and I really don't see what that has to do. Okay, governments steal money. It's not a conspiracy. It's the truth. And that $2.3 trillion missing, and this implication of a Zionist overlord, Dov Zakim, and F-16s, I mean, it's really all conjecture. I can, but what I can say is they don't need to do 9/11 to steal money from Americans. They don't need to kill 3,000 Americans to steal it. They stole $4.6 trillion in the bailouts. They've stolen God knows how much since the war in Iraq. I mean, it's not necessary. It really isn't. I see his point. I really don't. I don't understand it. But and the other thing is, okay, we don't live in the Stone Age here, where we live in the technology age, and the government has technology far beyond your wildest dreams. If you think the iPhone is something, you don't even know what they have. And the investigations into anything regarding government is not limited to one office in the Pentagon. And aside from that, the most affected part of the Pentagon that got hit was a part that was under renovation. So I don't really see, I can understand, they stole them, they're trying to cover their footprints, but I really don't see it at the same time. It's really just conjecture.
I could inject one little thing here. Like you said about the Pentagon being hit by in a spot that was under construction, the actual only tenant at the time, the only people who moved in already was the Office of Navy Intelligence, which is a group of people who do a lot of financial investigations into missing bond money. So it kind of really is a key target. Like if you were to target the actual Pentagon itself, you would go right through the front doors. If that was me and I was a terrorist, I would go right through the front doors, right through the main part of the building where everyone was alive. They only hit the key part of the building where there was a lot of documents stashed. I know that's exactly what Ainsworth's going to say because I'm on the same truther movement, so I'm positive that would be that part. But let's
well, I can relate to you there. I mean, I really don't find it plausible that the part that was under renovation they just moved into, they just moved all these documents in, and the other thing that we're kind of implying here is that their investigations are only limited to the documents and computers of one office. I mean, when you're talking government investigation. It's not just limited to one office. I mean, destroying a plane. If you owed $3,000 on your Capital One account and you go blow up the Capital One headquarters, that's not going to disappear. It's still going to be there in another corporate headquarters. It's not. So that's all I really have to say for now. I understand speculation on it, but there's really no evidence of that. And
Okay. Well, no, it might not be provable either way.
Once again, the argument out of ignorance.
I've still got Ainsworth on mute,
true.
so I got a question from the chat room for Evan, and says, can you ask Evan, does he believe that the Pentagon was hit by a commercial jetliner, yes or no?
Well, absolutely, and I provided that. I mean, there was hundreds of witnesses. I provided the picture where the light posts were knocked over, and like I said, I used to be a truther, and I was aware of all the theories, but that was one thing as a truther I couldn't get past was the light posts knocked over, because I mean, you think of this, it's imagined that the CIA and PNAC and all these agencies are a monolithic, ruthless, war hawk agency. I really don't think that kind of planning and coordination would include the detonation of 5 light posts on. So the flight path is clear. What happened, and I really don't think that. I'm assuming that this person believes the popular conspiracy that a bunker buster or some kind of missile hit the Pentagon, which I just don't. I mean, there's just too much. There were too many witnesses, and there were too many people that would have seen somebody knocking over light posts. I don't see it. That's one thing I was never able to get past. I hope you can agree with me on that, because that's never been explained to me by anyone in the truth movement or any article or blog I've ever read. So that's one thing I'd like to point out.
Okay, now, Evan, the impression I'm getting from you, just from this show, is that you're intelligent enough to be able to research some of these things, and being an admitted conspiracy theorist, you've given a lot of these some time and attention. So you're willing to look up a couple things if we give you some points right now? Like, not right today, but I mean,
like right now? Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm always, I'm very interested in politics, and yeah, sure.
All right, the guy who's on the question and answer on the chat window is a professional pilot, and he is stating that unequivocally it was impossible for a plane to come in due to the ratio of turns, due to the speed, all kinds of things. He has a lot of technical pilot questions about it, that it would be stuff. Now about the light poles, there's a whole documentary where some people go and interview the guy whose cab that the light poles went through.
Yeah, I'm aware the black man whose cab. I'm not sure of his name. Lloyd? Is it Lloyd or something like that?
Yeah, now they go to his house and they talk to him, and they literally go out and check out the cab, and a lot of his flight path apparently isn't in the right spot. So there is a big conspiracy about that. So we'll give Ainsworth about 2 or 3 minutes to give his rebuttal on the light poles that you're bringing up, and then maybe I'll get the pilot to send me 2 or 3 facts about why that was impossible, and then we'll give you some rebuttal time. I kind of want to be fair to everyone, but I'm totally trying not to be biased here, so I hope that we're not coming across as that. All right, here's Ainsworth.
Okay. The light poles. Have you ever heard of planted evidence? The one that landed through the window of Lloyd England's cab did no damage to it other than go through the window and hit the floor. It didn't scratch the roof. It didn't scratch the paint. It's kind of almost hard to imagine. Now, if a light pole gets hit by an aircraft going hundreds of miles an hour, wouldn't that be thrown forward at close to the speed of the aircraft after it breaks its bonds? It wouldn't just tip over idly. It would accelerate because it was hit by something moving fast. If you hit a parked car with your car, you'll throw it a long distance. If you're going 40 miles an hour, it'll probably go about 40 or 50 feet. So the nature of physics comes into play with this. And if that light pole had been thrown by a plane that was moving quickly and hit Lloyd England's cab, it would have pushed the cab around, and I'm certain it would have done more damage. there's no way that it could just land nice and neatly and create a punch hole through the window. So you provided an interesting piece of evidence that actually refutes your own point of view, Evan, and I appreciate you doing that. The big question that I have about the Pentagon is how come there isn't a single still picture, there isn't a single video that shows a 155-foot-long, 44-foot-high aircraft hitting that building to this day? How come the lawn was perfectly intact? Where did the two big engines go? How come there was a fire hydrant directly in front of the hole at ground level that's paint was perfectly intact, still bright yellow, after the hole had a fire going on in it? This is a rather large piece of equipment. A 757 is not a small object, and its engines are not small objects. There's no accounting for the two engines on that plane at the Pentagon. There's also a hole in the C-ring, which if you take an angle of attack coming into that and you go to where the C-ring is, it doesn't add up. So, quite frankly, the Pentagon is, in my opinion, one of the weakest cases to talk about things because there's not a plethora of good evidence. What there is a plethora of negative evidence.
Hey, Ainsworth, this is Paul talking here. I want to interject. I'm a truther myself, but I'm just thinking, how many light poles were there? Because I know there is a possible way for me to, like if I had a stick and I had a baseball bat and I hit that stick that was perpendicular sticking straight up and I gave her a good whack, there's a way for it to flip 600 times and land straight down where it was if I hit it in that certain right little spot. You know what I mean? So that, I mean, it's, anomalies are ridiculous, but I'm just trying to be unbiased, and there's a way to look at that where it is possible, I guess, for to have something stick out of the ground and you hit it and it flips and lands right back down in that spot. Now, is there any other like smash marks in the like I'm talking if a wing hit it, like I mean there should be some kind of physics on like the wing's density and the pole's density, and you should see the mark in the pole or something like that. Anyway, is there any kind of stuff on that? And how many poles is there?
Not that I know of, and I have not paid an undue amount of attention to the light poles. The majority of what I've focused on with them was actually a ride in a vehicle with Lloyd England talking about what was going on and people behind it. But I think that's almost an irrelevancy. As I say, my perspective about looking at the 757 that allegedly hit the Pentagon is where did its engines go? And how come the lawn was perfectly intact? How come Police Lieutenant Robert Medeiros, the on-scene commander from Arlington, said, I didn't see any pieces of the plane. I didn't see anything that remotely resembled a plane crash. I couldn't believe the plane crashed here.
Okay, well, that's a lot of good questions. That's a lot of points. So once again, Ainsworth is going on the mute. We're going to give Evan a little bit of time to maybe bring a point or two across on those. What do you think about those points?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, he talks about planted evidence. I mean, yeah, we could speculate on that. Oh, you know, they're carrying out the biggest terrorist attack in American history. Yeah, you know, why not knock over a few light posts? But that's not what the evidence is consistent with. And to speculate where the light post should land, I mean, we live in a world of unlimited possibilities. There's really no mathematical equation for what's going to happen to a light post when it hits a plane. The fact is, it fell on the guy's car. It was enough pressure, and Ainsworth says it fell nice and neatly. I mean, I don't consider a light pole going through somebody's windshield nice and neatly.
No, it's not neat when a light pole hits your car.
Not at all, dude. Yeah. And you know,
now the
the plane, if you look at a plane, there's actually an angle on the plane. The wings are not sticking straight up. There's about a 25-degree angle. Where I'm working right now is right near an airport. I see the planes all the time. There's a 25-degree angle or so on the car. Don't quote me on that, 'cause I'm not sure. But it's not a straight. It's not going to push it forward. It's more like going to scoop it to the side a little bit, and so that argument I really can't.
Now
anyway,
the only thing I could think of as a truther's side of it to the light poles, and I've looked at these really closely because I've quite frankly I've been obsessed with 9/11 since before, like while it was happening. I was right there watching it. I haven't turned the TV off since. I'm crazy. All right, let's put it that way. Now the light poles, There's 5 of them knocked down, and if you were looking at a map on a piece of paper right now, on the right-hand side of the piece of paper, you would draw 5 light poles and a taxi cab attached to the first light pole. If you were on the very far left-hand side of the piece of paper, you would draw lines that would be about 10 or 15 lines. These are all eyewitness accounts of flight patterns, where the plane went over their head, where people were standing, positioning, say, yeah, it just went right over my head, right here, to the left of me. So on the left side of the page is where the flight patterns was, where people are claiming the plane went past them, the eyewitnesses. Where the poles are knocked down is on the right-hand side of the map. So there's a major discrepancy between the poles being attached to it and what witnesses are saying. So it's kind of weird at that point, but we'll give you a lot of the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. I'm going to leave Paul out of this. Okay, now, what do you think about stuff like that, where it's not even in the same position, though?
Oh, you're referring to me, Chance?
Yeah, I've got...
well, I mean, one thing I know is my cousin's a cop, and I have, people in my family in law enforcement, and they say that the most unreliable accounts of any event are the eyewitness accounts. I mean, they use them when possible, but you're talking about a guy saying, I stood right here, and I mean, what's his reference point? Well,
what it was for the one that specifically stood out in my mind, I know there was 3 or 4 that were people on the street, and to me, they don't mean anything. They're just standing on the street. They could have been anywhere. Your mind puts you somewhere else, so I'll give you that for sure.
Exactly.
But the guy who was in an actual Esso station working, he was I don't know if it was an Esso, but it was a gas station. He was working. He was fixed on a position. He has a time card that says he was there. He says it went to the left of him. The gas station's in between the middle and where the plane went, and there's poles knocked down to the right of him. So it really looks weird, kind of. I'm not even trying to take sides here, but that's the only clarification I could try and bring up.
I can see what you're saying, but at the same time, I mean, so they planned this. So what you guys believe is truth is that the government or some government or some agency planned this massive conspiracy to kill 3,000 Americans and affect this police state over the world and keep everyone in fear. And so they, at the smallest facet out of the whole agenda, the light post, they screwed that one up and knocked over the wrong light post. I mean, I don't really... The light posts were knocked over. It officially it marked the pattern of the plane, the flight path, and I mean I really don't see how when you're doing from the perspective of the so-called conspirators, if you're doing this massive thing, I mean isn't it kind of stupid to fumble the simplest little part, the light? We knocked down the wrong light post. Oh no, they figured us out. Dylan Avery's going to make a documentary on it and expose. I mean I really find that kind of unlikely, Chance. I'm not trying to put down your argument because it is valid, but...
I'm glad you brought up Dylan Avery again. We'll talk about him in a second. Now, Paul, you were about to inject something. No? It's done?
That's good, yep.
Okay. Now, when you mentioned Dylan Avery earlier, I tried to get him on the show. I even sent him messages, personal, private messages, inviting him on nicely, saying, we're having a 9/11 debate. Some of the debate points are probably from your movie. You want to come on? I got the most rude message ever about no. This guy was very...
Yeah, he was very rude to me too, Chance. It's nothing personal. I just think he's a rude person.
Yeah, I bought his movie, damn it. You know what I mean? So
I know.
It pisses me off. You know what I mean? I hate to swear. That was one of the rules, but that guy made me mad. So then I said, he said he doesn't debate people anymore. He makes movies. I said, well, I don't want you to debate. Like, can you come on? Tell me about how you made that movie, like how that you even started it. Anything to give your little this guy shrugged me off.
If you don't mind me saying though, the thing is he really doesn't. I watched his movie and I found it very compelling and I liked what he did there and I admire him as a filmmaker, but as a geopolitical analyst, and I really don't see it. I mean, at the time he was in college, he was a pizza boy. I mean, and I'm not in the spirit of ad hominem attacks, but he didn't interview any experts. He didn't talk with anybody. He didn't consult with anybody. He kind of just made this movie on his own. And
the points we'll give you right away. the points we'll give you for sure is not
well,
only
my
was
point is that that's why he didn't want to come on your show to talk about that, because he doesn't want too much attention drawn to where he got these facts from. And I
not only
that,
does he seem very unprofessional in the way of any of these interviews, and it's quite rude to have a fan like message you and say, hey, I'm a fan, I support you, I give you money, and he shrugs me off rudely, so I didn't like that. But yeah, let's just say that we ignore his movies and what he was doing because, you know, he's just a pizza boy or whatever. What would you say to the movies where it's not a pizza boy, where it's the architect
well, that's
and engineers?
the thing, Chance, and that was a big thing for me as you know, because I mean, I know that there's a lot of truthers that'll sit here and say, well, what do you define as credible? The mainstream media, they lie about everything.
Well, I know for sure Ainsworth is going to say that the architects and engineers. Can you give any point before I unmute him and he unleashes?
Well, I don't have the facts right in front of me right now, but I was reading about, when I was a truther, about the narrow moral base of the architects and engineers for 9/11 truth, and I can't really remember right now what it was about, but.
Okay, well, let's just see what he has to say. Okay, so I'll throw you on mute. We'll see what Ainsworth has to say. I'm sure he's raring to go. He's been on hold for 7 minutes. All right. Ainsworth, what do you got?
Well, yeah, I was beginning to wonder if you'd forgotten that I'm here.
Well,